Welcome to Nonsense, Season 3, Episode 39, our big story and our second show of the week. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Jill.
This time we're looking at sleep, the ultimate performance hack, up next.
No. The ultimate performance hack is that one I get for 87 cents a pill from Friday Night Plans. That's what I was told.
Are you a sound sleeper? Are you have any sleep problems, or are you good?
Yes, I have 2 sleep problems. They're called children.
But other than that, pre-children, did you have any trouble ever going to sleep?
I could sleep through the USC marching band coming through my bedroom.
Yeah?
I would sleep through everything, and I would fall asleep about somewhere between 1 to 5 seconds after my head hit the pillow.
Well, then you were probably sleep deprived. That's probably too fast.
I was 100% sleep deprived. There's no doubt. I used to sleep 4.5, 5 hours a night.
Wow.
But the point is, I would sleep well, and I felt well rested.
Yeah.
As soon as we had kids, I will wake up hearing the latch on one of my son's doors open.
Sure.
And I'm like, what's going on? And I'm not awake like groggy. I am awake and alert, which means I was never sleeping to begin with.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has been my biggest problem with sleep, I think, has been my children.
That will continue well beyond when your child is 19 years old. I can attest to the fact that you're not going to sleep any better. That's not going to get better.
As I hear a V8 at 8,000 RPM go screaming up the canyon, I'm like, oh, there's my kid. There he goes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Do you have any sleep tricks, like staying out of your bedroom until you're actually heading towards sleep, or waking up at the same time every day, or a cutoff time for caffeine, or a cutoff time for alcohol? At my age, I have a cutoff time now for water. No more water after because I don't want to get up in the middle of the night and have
daddy's bladder. Yep, I understand. I'm not quite there yet. I'm pretty sure I'm knocking on that door, but I'm not quite there yet. I do typically try to limit caffeine intake after like 3 or 4 p.m. because what's the point? Yeah. I don't have any good routines that are like consistent. I do, especially when the kids are in school, I do have a consistent wake up time, and for the most part, that I find helps.
Totally helps. Yeah, that's magic.
Unless you screw it up the day before, right? Like if I'm getting up at 5:30 and going to bed at 2, that makes for not a great day of rest.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, that helps. The other thing that I do, and this is so sad to admit, but I just want to do it at the front of the show. I have timers in my home automation set to turn off the lights at my desk in increasing order. There are 3 lights around my desk and they turn off at different times. And it's basically like,
get out of here, stop working.
The first one's like, hey buddy, you should probably think about going to bed. And then the second one's like, hey, just so you know, you missed the first one. And then the third one is it turns off all the lights. It literally
get out.
Turns off every light in the office. And I thought about wiring it up to the monitor too, but I was like, no, that'll just piss me off. So I'm not going to do that. And I'd say for the most part, it works. About 85% of the time it works. But every now and again, I'm just like, I do this like walk of shame, my home automation to turn it back on.
Sure. Because you got work to do.
Because I got something I got to get done. Yeah, exactly. So that's me.
My dog, Barkley, even has a little pre-bedtime routine.
Okay.
He will bring me one of his stuffed animals. He has little steps to come up on the bed.
Oh, that's cute.
He'll bring me up the steps, one of the stuffed animals, and he'll leave it, and he wants me to throw it for him. I'll throw it to the other side of the room.
Okay.
He'll run after it and get it, go all the long way around the room and back to the bed. He'll climb up the steps with the stuffed animal and climb into bed, and then he's ready to go to sleep.
Just like one last throw.
But he has to do that every night.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah. If I go to bed for some reason, if I'm out, someplace and I don't get home and I get home at 1 o'clock in the morning,
you're still doing it.
He still has to do
that's funny.
the same routine. And by the way, if I'm at home, he will go to bed almost without fail at 9 p.m. no matter what is happening.
Sure.
He will look up, he'll look at me like, dude, it is 9 p.m.
Nothing good on TV.
I don't know what you're thinking.
Going to sleep.
I'm going upstairs.
Yeah.
So he'll go upstairs, he'll climb in bed, and he'll go to sleep.
That's crazy.
When I come to bed, he wants to do the toy routine.
Sure. That makes sense.
Because you can't go to sleep until you've done the toy thing.
I'll say Barkley is nothing if not consistent.
He is nothing if not consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, your brain on sleep, the latest science. Let's go.
Hold on. Let me take a quick nap.
We all chase that elusive great night's sleep, but it's more than just about feeling rested. New science reveals sleep is a powerhouse for brain health, immunity, and even mental well-being.
That means the FDA is going to ban it.
From clearing out mental cobwebs to bolstering our defenses to sorting through and reorganizing our thoughts, good sleep is imperative. But how do we achieve it in our 24/7 always-on world? What does the latest research have to say about why sleep not just matters, but how to master it? And yes, we're going to have to talk about that cell phone.
Oh, the cell phone. You doing the questions?
Yeah.
You do the questions.
Talk to me about the Michael Jackson problem. Ooh. How you don't actually get good sleep in the restorative sense when the doctor puts you under general anesthesia. He actually wasn't getting rest.
Okay, hold on a second. You can't start with, quote, talk to me about the Michael Jackson problem and then have a half-beat pause, because I feel like we're going a little different direction than sleep. So kind of, you know, I mean, I appreciate that you scoped your question in a little more,
Sure.
but when you say talked about the Michael Jackson problem, especially in today's
That's
climate,
not the problem that's coming to mind,
I feel like there's an island we have to talk about somewhere now. Is it the Caribbean? Okay, good. Thank you for scoping that. You saved me a bunch of time and embarrassment.
He needed sleep. He desperately needed sleep. And the thing he was doing was actually preventing him from getting rest. So the more he would do it, the more he was getting exhausted.
I don't know a lot about Michael Jackson. The Michael Jackson stories, obviously, a bunch of the rumors.
But you understand propofol.
This idea of using propofol, which will just knock you right out and is very easy to go, oh, well, if I'm out, I must be sleeping, right? I'm not awake.
Yeah.
Therefore sleeping. It's like, but you're not.
Not even close.
Because your normal sleep, you're not even close.
Yeah.
Your normal sleep, the kind that you actually want and that you get hopefully every night, has these different states. You have light sleep, you've got deep sleep, you've got REM sleep, which stands for rapid eye movement. But typically these anesthesias skip all that. You're not going through your phases, you just get parked.
Yeah.
And it's like you're just
done.
Sitting there idling in neutral, not going through the restorative rhythms of sleep. And that's why when you wake up from anesthesia, you feel groggy.
You feel sleepy.
Right? You don't wake up from anesthesia. Yeah, exactly. You don't wake up from anesthesia feeling like you're going to go take on the world. And without that, well, I'm sure we'll get into this more as we're talking about this, but that REM sleep, that's when you get your memory consolidation, right? It's when your brain decides what memories to keep and what to flush.
Yeah.
Which in my case is just all flush now, but it used to be keep. Now it's just like, it's just let it all go. But you don't get an REM. That REM is sort of offline. The sort of mess that is your daily active brain stays messy, right? That file cabinet doesn't get sorted.
Right.
You're still not, you're in this like anesthetic coma, right? You don't get these complex organizing cycles that help restore your brain state.
You are getting your 90-minute cycle, right?
You're skipping that. And I think the same thing applies to most other things that give you sort of a depressed or anesthetic-like results. So if it's alcohol or THC, things like that, you might get some modicum of the restorative sleep, but you're not getting as much as you would had you not taken it. That's my understanding.
What you're getting is you're getting under quickly.
Yes, you're getting...
The THC, the gummies can get you under quickly. The alcohol will get you under quickly. It will not then allow you to go through your normal sleep cycles. You will not get the REM you need, and this will not give you any rest.
My understanding is that most all of these sort of anesthetic-related shortcuts, even the pills, they just don't help you. You actually it continues the spiral to make it worse.
Which is crazy. Sleeping pills literally labeled. It's what it says on the tin. We're going to give you sleep. And of course, the one thing it's not going to give you is restorative sleep.
But you added a word in there, right? You qualified the type of sleep. And I think
you'll be out cold.
Yeah,
you'll
exactly.
be out.
Exactly.
But that's not the same thing. That's not what you need.
Yeah.
That doesn't refresh you.
That's the big difference here, is defining what kinds of sleep, right? When you and I are talking about sleep in this segment, we're talking about the restorative sleep that you need to keep your brain wired and stay healthy and have cognition. The sleep that they're using in these other cases are just like, you're not awake. Yeah. And you're not awake is not the same as restorative sleep.
Sleep that is not restorative sleep just is not sleep.
It's not sleep.
You can be in a coma. Let's just call it a coma.
Sure.
When you are
I agree.
not actually sleeping, but you are under.
Or you can just call it not awake. You can just call it the whole state of not awake does not equal sleep. I appreciate that.
I had trouble sleeping when my father passed away.
Yeah.
I normally don't have any trouble sleeping. I can sleep like a rock.
Yeah.
And it takes me 5 or 10 minutes to fall asleep. Whatever. It doesn't take a long time. I got to do the dog thing. If I don't stay away for the dog thing, they'll be barking in that. I don't want
So by
that.
the way, I love that next week on Barkley's podcast, he's going to be like, I got to do this thing so that Jeff will go to sleep every night. I got to do the thing with the toy or he just won't go to sleep.
But when my dad passed away, I actually had, I was grieving, of course, and still am, but I couldn't sleep because of it. That's a natural process. The one thing you don't want to do in that process is not grieve. You don't want to anesthetize those things with pills, or it's the same thing as your brain sorting itself out. You want to let your brain go through that process. You just have to live through it. There's no shortcut.
Can't kick the can on it.
Right. All it's going to do is put the thing on pause. You're still going to have to go through the same things. Now you're dragging out for longer.
Absolutely.
All right. Beyond feeling tired, what is sleep's critical role in brain waste clearance and preventing neurodegenerative diseases?
Great question. Arguably, this is the most important part of sleep. And this is like your sort of brain plumbing, right? If you skip sleep, it's like letting your mental garbage pile up.
Yeah.
We have this thing called the glymphatic system, which is the brain's waste management system.
Yeah.
By the way, this thing was just discovered in the past 10 years. It's crazy that we're still learning so much about sleep and sleep cycles.
Sleep is a scientific frontier even today.
It's really crazy. This thing we all sort of take for granted and have such wide varying interactions with. Some people have just always been great sleepers. Some people have always been terrible sleepers. We're learning so much about it. This glymphatic system kicks into gear when you're in this slow wave sleep state primarily. And it flushes all the metabolic waste from your brain. All this stuff that gets left behind. There's something called I think it's pronounced beta amyloid. That's the protein, the sort of gunky protein. That's what's behind Alzheimer's plaque. That gets removed. These tau proteins, which are what sort of tangles into the neurons. You You have reactive oxygen species that are basically like exhaust fumes from your brain, and then just dead cells, just like the things that your body has to purge. All of this gets flushed out.
The same thing your eyes do when they clean themselves at night, and you get sleep in the corner of your eyes. That's happening in your brain.
This I found just absolutely unbelievable. During sleep, your brain cells will actually shrink by up to 60% in size, which allows the space to expand between them so the fluid can rush through and carry out all the trash.
Oh, that's wild.
Without this stuff...
Without washing away your brain every night.
Yes, and you get this buildup.
Without sleep.
Waste buildup in the brain, you really get this like piling up.
Yeah.
You get this increased risks of neuroinflammation. Your brain swells effectively. You get what's called synaptic pruning. So this is the process that clears out old or weak connections to strengthen the memory and learnings of the stuff that you want to keep.
Sure.
And then you'll get these sort of elevated levels, even after just one night of bad sleep, of like the beta amyloids and the tau levels. After just one night of bad sleep, you'll see not necessarily excessive, but elevated levels of these.
You don't want to go continually getting bad sleep. You can really get yourself into trouble.
Doing this chronically, right? Chronic sleep deprivation is strongly associated with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lewy body dementia, multiple sclerosis. We're not certain that it's causative, but research is pointing us in the direction that there are causative pathways.
Wow.
And that insufficient deep sleep leads to this long-term accumulation of neurotoxic waste.
Yeah.
I'm no expert in this, but from what I've read and what I've seen, I feel like we're in the early days still of sleep analysis. Like,
yeah, for sure.
The technology to analyze things in the brain is relatively recent. So you're talking about like decades that we've been able to do this. But it's this sort of think of sleep as the janitorial duty. You've got to clean everything up. And if you don't, you're just left with a bunch of trash bouncing around in your brain.
That is potentially leading toward serious problems.
Yeah, serious consequences for sure.
How precisely does the lack of quality sleep impact our immune system ability to fight off infections and respond to vaccines?
Your body's doing so much work that you don't see when you're sleeping, including we have these, they're called NK cells, these natural killer cells, which are in your immune system that basically destroy virus-infected cells and tumors. One study showed that just one night of only 4 hours of sleep can reduce your NK cell activity by up to 70% the next day.
Wow.
And I think this is like the general adage of when you don't sleep, you get sick because you're tired, or it's not just that you're tired, it's that the things in your body that are protecting you are diminished greatly by 2/3.
Yeah.
You'll get weaker responses to vaccines. There was a couple studies, one from University of Pittsburgh, one from UCSF, that shows that sleep-deprived folks produce fewer antibodies after vaccination. The flu vaccine, people who slept less than 6 hours per night produced less than half the antibody response of people who slept 7+ hours. Similar results with hepatitis B. Those with poor sleep had significantly lower protection 6 months after the shot.
Yeah.
This is such an easy thing to do, but so important. I mentioned earlier about increased inflammation. Poor sleep will jack up your pro-inflammation cytokines, like I think one's called IL-6, the one that's called TNF-alpha. That's your immune system basically saying, well, this is maybe not a great analog, but like, we don't know what's going on, so we're just going to flood this with a bunch of preventative inflammation when there's really no real infection. It just doesn't seem to know what's happening.
It also cues your body that you're hungry when you're not actually really in need of food.
Oh yeah, that's fascinating to me too. And I've experienced this firsthand. There's two things that happen when I push myself on sleep in addition to cognition loss. It's not appetite, but it's not appetite. Like basically my stomach feels like I'm hungry, but I'm not. And eating has no effect. It doesn't make it feel any better.
Yeah.
The other one is I feel dirty. Like I feel like I need a shower. Like I feel greasy.
Yeah.
And I'll go take a shower and dry off and get out and feel
doesn't help.
Exactly the same.
Sure.
And I've always assumed, I don't really know, but I've always assumed it's just your body being like, hey, go to bed.
Yeah.
What else do you want me to do? Like the next step is I'm going to make you feel like you're on fire. Like I feel like that's what the progression where it's like you just need to go to sleep.
If turning off the lights in your office one at a time isn't working, let's make you feel greasy. And then you can wash, and you won't have washed inside, so you're still going to feel greasy.
The joke is on my body, because what my body doesn't know is I'm half Italian, so I'm normally greasy. Like I'm normally in a state of grease.
So you're comfortable that way.
So even when it makes me feel greasy, I feel like I'm going back home. It's great. And then the other thing, this is sort of nuts. We talked about this when we talked about vaccines a little while ago, that you have this memory in your immune system. That memory is specifically remembering pathogens and how to attack them. When you have poor sleep, you don't get good encoding of these immunological faces, if you will. You might not develop long-term immunity even after a minor infection or exposure if you're low on sleep.
Wow.
All of this comes from just doing the thing that we're all programmed to do naturally, which is sleep a decent amount of time.
New research links excessive sleep to cognitive decline, particularly in those with depressive symptoms. What mechanisms are behind this, and how do we define what's excessive sleep?
Isn't this a great example of you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't? It's like you sleep too little, you're going to die. You sleep too long, you're going to die.
You drink too much water, you drown. You don't drink enough water, you dehydrate.
Come on, what's the answer?
Happy medium is the answer.
We currently define excessive sleep for adults is sort of anything past 9 hours. We think the sweet spot of sleep for adults is between 7 to 9 hours typically. Consistently sleeping more than 9 hours. And to be clear, this is consistently is the key word here. Not like you're super tired because you had a couple long days or you went on vacation or flight like that. That's not this. We're talking about consistently sleeping for more than 9 hours, especially if you have reports of like daytime fatigue, low energy, mental fog. We categorize this now as excessive sleep. If it's like what they call depressive hypersomnia, so that's people with depression that sleep for 9 to 11 hours, it's typically low quality fragmented sleep. You're getting less of that slow wave sleep. You typically have disturbed REM regulation and elevated nocturnal cortisol. You think, oh, I'm getting more of a good thing. You're actually getting less of a good thing by being there longer. And it's just more time in bed, quote, sleeping, but not getting the benefits of what we normally get in that sleep. Same neuroinflammation sort of increase that you saw with less sleep, you get with more sleep or with excessive sleep. That lymphatic system will actually become sort of sluggish because you have more time in light sleep or disordered sleep. It means that system is underperforming. Like it's not giving it its opportunity to do its job when you're in that full sleep. The absolute wrecking of your circadian rhythm. So if you're not getting that clock, especially the solar-based clock, then you're going to get that mood dysregulation, metabolic disruption, the brain fog I like to describe as like you're trying to think through pudding. It just doesn't work. You can't rub two thoughts together.
They say the cognitive impairment is similar to being drunk.
Yeah. This, of course, like most things, especially health ailments, it starts this spiral. You get this sort of feedback loop of doom where you go from depression to oversleeping to social withdrawal to sort of cognitive underuse, cognitive decline, and that just continues the depression and the oversleeping. Like you just spiral down, and then you just end up understimulated and socially isolated, which are I think the two largest contributors to cognitive deterioration.
I have a thing that I do that works for me. I do not like to go into my bedroom unless I am going to go to sleep.
Yeah, you've made it your sleep place.
Yes,
yeah, totally.
And it cues my body that when I go there, and if I stay, obviously I go there to pick up laundry and junk like that. But if I go there, I want my body to know we are heading to sleep. This is part of the routine.
Yeah, I'm aspirational. This is like zero inbox to me. Like, sure, it sounds like a great idea. Sometimes I just have to hide from my kids.
Yeah, I don't have that worry. My kid's hiding from me. Nothing changes. It just the roles change.
I want to say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not.
Beyond anecdotal evidence, what does the science say about the effectiveness of consistently waking up at the same time over a consistent bedtime for regulating our circadian rhythms?
Yeah, that's a really great question. You can bootstrap yourself into a better sleep cycle by regulating not your bedtime, your wake-up time.
Your wake-up time,
Now, ultimately, your wake-up time will influence your bedtime, right? Your bedtime can be a function of your wake-up time. But being more consistent on your wake-up time is easier for you to control and ultimately gives you better results. You get into this circadian rhythm from the light, so your internal clock reset by that morning light exposure, and waking up consistently ensures that those predictable light cues, which are the number one regulators of circadian rhythm, are staying consistent. If you miss that anchor point, then the whole thing gets sort of out of sync. There was a study a couple of years ago, I think it was 2021, that found consistent wake-up times correlated more strongly with improved sleep efficiency and mood than consistent bedtime.
For sure.
And I'd also argue, for most everybody, it's the easier one to control.
I can't force myself to go to sleep, but I can force myself to get up.
Yeah. The other thing that is fascinating to me is that it's called homeostatic sleep pressure. So this is that feeling of drowsiness. It's very hard for you to control this, right? You can't just decide to be sleepy at 10 p.m.
Sure.
So that sleep pressure sort of changes throughout the day. If you wake up late, you're going to have less pressure, so you're going to be more wide awake at some time. By being consistent on your wake-up time, you're going to get that higher sleep quality, even if your bedtime fluctuates. And I found some parallels to that because I'd say that since any of my adulthood, I've had the most consistent wake-up time when I've had kids that were in school because they can't get themselves to school. So you have to be up.
You have no choice when you wake up.
And I find that typically those days, assuming I don't screw up the night before and stay up way too late, those days I have a more consistent experience. So that seems, I've got at least a little anecdotal evidence that seems to support this.
For me, even weekends, if I keep my weekend wake-up time the same as my weekday wake-up time, I'm in much better shape because I don't have this social drowsiness of having stayed up way too late during the weekend.
They've shown that even a 90-minute weekend sleep in, which I think is sort of that typical weekend, like, hey, I can afford 90 minutes and it's time to sleep in. It has been related to spikes in not just social jet lag, but like increased inflammation, obesity, and even depressive symptoms. Just by sleeping in. The thing that you think you're doing to make it better for you can increase these other conditions. And you're just like, oh man, use your wake-up time as your anchor point and then sort of figure out your bedtime based on your day's sleep needs and in related to the anchor point of tomorrow, the future wake-up time.
So if you wake up at the same time every day, how do you know what's the perfect time for you to go to bed?
Math.
You just back it up. Yeah, math, right?
Math.
8 hours or whatever it is your body needs.
I mean, you got to dial in your right number. It's different for everybody.
Right.
But typically, if you're targeting that sort of 7 to 9 hours, you're going to be able to back into it, include some time for wind down, use sleepiness as a signal. That's the thing that's probably helped me the most. I used to ignore the sleep signal. Yeah. And now I'd say at least half half the time I can listen to it or I choose to listen to it, but I try not to force it. I try not to force it because like, oh, the clock says 10, I need to go to sleep. I found that hard. What I do is I change my behavior in that time. That usually gets me to come around somewhat quickly.
I have vivid memories of when I was young, driving long distances. For some reason, I had to be like in a different part of the state, driving long distances when I was absolutely just exhausted.
Yeah.
And sometimes you would drive and you wouldn't remember the last 25 miles. What did I pass?
Yeah.
That's got to be as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than driving drunk.
Yeah. Arguably, yes, worse than being intoxicated.
We warn kids about not driving drunk, not driving high. We make a big deal.
Yeah.
You got to warn your kids, not when you're sleepy.
Yeah.
Do not drive when you're sleepy. It's the same thing. Your brain's not functioning.
Yeah.
What do you do personally when you can't fall asleep? If you just can't get under and you're trying to go to sleep, you've gone to bed, but it's just not happening.
Laying there staring at the ceiling is usually not my best solution.
Yeah.
So I'll get up, I'll change rooms, I'll try to do something calm and boring. I will read. So I will read a book. I will read my Kindle. Definitely no screens, no doom scrolling, nothing that is backlit.
Shining a bright light in your eyes is probably not your best strategy
laser at your
for making
retina.
yourself probably not your best strategy for making yourself want to go to sleep.
Again, take this all with a grain of salt. I'd say on a given month, there are probably 5 to 10 times that I get in bed and if my wife's not already asleep, I'll be like, wow, I am just not tired at all. I don't know how I'm going to fall out. And she just laughs at me. She's like, literally last night you said you weren't tired and you were asleep within 15 seconds.
Right.
The point is I'm a terrible predictor of it. Now I do this other thing. This is not necessarily to help sleep, but it's this other little hack that I do. If I have a specific problem or challenge, like a relatively, let's say, easy to medium one, I will think about it as I'm winding down to go to sleep. And what I have found, it's like I wake up not necessarily with the answer, but with progress towards the answer. It's really fascinating. It's like I'm using offline cycles.
The quantity of puzzles I have solved while sleeping would blow your mind.
You wake up and
programming questions, which are basically puzzles.
Sure.
I mean, same sort of thing. For whatever reason, my mom did this. My uncle used to do this magic trick that we all just were blown away by how, and he would do it over and over and over. He stayed with us one summer, probably did this magic trick once a day for months, and we never could and all of a sudden my mom bolts upright in bed one night and she goes, I got it. And she was completely right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Your brain just works in the background on these puzzles. You want to memorize a script. If you have something you have to memorize, go over it and go over it and go over it and go over it. Get in your memory all you want. But don't stay up all night. Go to bed. Go to sleep.
Totally.
You'll wake up. It'll be magic. You'll have it.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, those are the big things that I've seen that have either worked or that I found interesting.
All right, we have to get out of here, but quickly before we do, have you seen or read anything good this last week?
Of course, but this is probably going to be my softest recommendation yet, but I think it's one of the coolest things I've seen in the last week or certainly in a while. There's this guy, Myerscough-Harris.
Okay.
He has an Instagram page called Expired Film Club.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, his tagline is looking at the world through a vintage lens.
Sure.
And this past week, he posted pictures he took from the Goodwood Festival of Speed, and he took them on a Game Boy camera from 1990.
Oh, wow.
I haven't thought about in 25 years. Like, I remember they made this thing. I just hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
It's a camera that goes into the game cartridge of a Game Boy.
Yeah.
And it's got the sensor is 128 by 128 pixels, right? It's a CMOS sensor.
Sure.
And it can store 128 by 112 grayscale digital image using the 4 color palette of the Game Boy system.
So super ratty.
And of course, by today's standards, it looks terrible, but it's so fun to look at, especially coming off of our digital camera advert from like 1996 earlier in the week.
Sure.
It's so much fun. So if you are a tech nerd, as most of our listeners are, I do strongly encourage you to take just 15 seconds and click on the link in the show to Miles' Instagram page. It's really fantastic to see like modern images, like these modern race cars through the lens of a 4-color grayscale sensor from like 30 years ago. It's awesome.
That's awesome. I used to go to Sammy's and I would pick up the Holga cameras or the Diane cameras, which like these Russian cheaply made with light leaks and everything else.
Totally.
Because you get such interesting, mostly you get garbage.
Sure.
Most of the stuff you use is absolute garbage. But occasionally you get something that's like really cool that you would have never been able to get any other way.
It's such an interesting way to look through. I really love the view of modern day through this fairly ancient tech. I mean, this was like the very early days of digital sensors.
Sure.
How about you? What are you recommending for us?
I'm recommending 1976's Taxi Driver, of course. Robert De Niro plays Travis Bickle, a Vietnam veteran, adrift in the sleepless, decaying concrete jungle of 1970s New York. Haunted by chronic insomnia, his nights behind behind the wheel of a taxi become a slow, chilling descent into madness. He's an observer disgusted by the filth he sees, fueled by his inability to find peace or rest. Scorsese's masterpiece is a raw, unnerving psychological plunge where sleep deprivation amplifies a burning desire to clean up a world that refuses to conform. Decades later, the fine line between vigilante justice and madness continues to be relevant. So good. In fact, a classic. Taxi Driver, rented on Amazon Prime now.
So this is so typical nonsense, right? I plug a 30-year-old digital camera accessory for a Game Boy that is by all measures just terrible. And you plug an Academy Award nominated film, Taxi Driver, that is just amazing.
About not getting sleep.
The juxtaposition of this is just fantastic.
That is the episode.
Thank you for joining us for all this nonsense. A truly terrible podcast from The Awful Company. This is on the web at nonsense.productions. I'm Stu.
I'm Jeff Parker.
If you like this program, please follow, download, subscribe, and like at Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, AntennaPod, iHeartRadio, Spotify, my favorite Overcast, wherever you may get your podcasts from.
Nonsense is brought to you by the Ice Water Council. Nothing quenches thirst like a nice tall glass of ice water. Also be sure and try our environmentally friendly tap ice water. All the goodness of ice water locally brewed. Ice water, delicious. Not for use before bedtime.
We are so desperate for sponsors.
Take what we can get.
Ice Water Council. They have a budget of $312 a year.
No, we get free samples.
Okay. All right. You know what? It's a good deal.
It's a good deal.
Now that I think it through, it's a really good deal.
It's a great deal.
We'll be here every Tuesday and Thursday mornings for more nonsense. Please join us. More than 70% of people report experiencing a sex dream at least once in their life.
Just once?
The other 30% are lying. They are bald-faced liars. What do you mean? 30% are just like, nope, never thought about it. Like, what?
Oh, sure you did.
Like, what are you, a priest? Because I guarantee you they're in the 70%, not the 30%.